addition to it.
Yeah, exactly. I like, that's what I'm like, all this logistics shit. But it's new. Like this is the first time. It's funny because I was talking to the accelerator yesterday, and how a lot of people, because we have them do their like, what are your annual goals, your quarterly goals,
Right.
and like so much has shift. So maybe something that you were gonna do towards the end of the year now gets replaced because the things the things that you thought were relevant a month ago are no longer relevant.
Exactly. We're in the middle of that as well.
How are you? What are you guys gonna do with like Audacity Fest? Are you gonna? I see that seamlessly going online.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's interesting. It's interesting the feedback that we're getting. I think people are starting to pop up in here. Oh,
yeah.
I see one other person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, there's the idea. The thing is though, I use NOMADNESS as a focus group all the time, and they don't want it online. They'd rather wait. They'd rather wait and do it in person. And I'm telling you, because I was thinking about this as early as when I was in India, and I was just like, like there's different platforms where you can create what they call like virtual environments.
Yeah.
And it was like, this could so seamlessly be put online and and like our community doesn't want it.
Hey, this is Hope. I just wanted to mention I host events too. And we just had a big healthcare marketing summit, which we had literally the day before everything got shut down. And we were able to pivot, but we were able to pivot and have a live stream company come in. So we had half the people who came. So if you want ideas, I could just summarize kind of what we did. I thought it went really well.
Thank you. I think the thing right now with us is that we're expecting 1,000 or plus more people. And the problem of congregating people in real life, that's the thing to overcome. And that's totally not what I thought. Totally. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we have digital components and digital content. Like we have a whole content calendar that we're rolling out starting on Friday of this week that ironically touches on a lot of things, a lot of panels. And I mean, it could even be just like, broadcast and then reestablished for something like Audacity Fest. But these people want the festival. They would wait. They were just like the interactions, the networking, the just like the one-to-one and group mentality and what we bring to Audacity Fest. There's nothing like, and we'd rather just wait. I was like, got it.
Okay. Are you guys replacing it are you going to do something else instead?
Well, we haven't made the full decision yet. I think it's way too early. We're still kind of seeing what's going on in the scope of everything.
Yeah.
This is just that we've been having with our ambassadors and in the community. Cause I'm one of those people where if I don't have the answer, I ask the community. Everything I do is for them. It's based around their needs and their wants. So I can have a whole view of something in my mind, but that doesn't mean shit, if it's not what the community is on with, like my community dictates a lot of my decisions. So if not all of them. So that's the importance of it. So I love using them as a focus group, and they give me the insights that I need.
Yeah. Same thing with the accelerator. The whole idea behind this founder support week, like the topics we touched on were the ones that they said I'm struggling the most with, or they said this is the most interesting to me right now. Because otherwise I'm not putting out content for content. That's not interesting for
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that approach.
Are you taping this? Because I'm not going to be able to stay on the whole thing, but I'd love to be able to listen to the part.
Everything's recorded. Everything's on demand.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to catch up offline. I love this. You're awesome, by the way. Let's find time to catch up offline. I have some big stuff going on.
Of course. Yeah, I heard you talk to, who was it that told me? Was it Tim Grace or Andy Crestadina?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He had mentioned, like, I think maybe a month or two ago, he was just like, I was just talking to Hope and your name came up. And I was like, that's so awesome. Come on, Chicago. Good, Chicago.
Nice.
I love it. I'm gonna give people some time to trickle in, but some reminders. Some of you already know this because you logged in on day one. For the conversation, if you can keep yourself on mute, that'd be great. At some point, we want to see your beautiful faces as well. And we're also going to have the Q&A today is going to be more conversation based. So when we do open it up for Q&A, you have a question, definitely put on your video. I'm going to have you ask your own questions to Evita. Day one, I had Amora do it because it was very much so structured and here's the step-by-step. But today we're going to definitely do more conversational, and you can definitely just step in and ask whatever questions you would like to ask her. Well, Evita, how's your team doing right now?
Everybody's good. Like, we're good. I mean, our industry is being clobbered, but this is the thing, right? Being a creative, like, this is the time where like, we kind of like come out the gates blaring like, oh, my livelihood's at stake. Gotcha. Like,
yeah, right.
We're about to pivot real quick and get creative super quick with this. And so I think for us, we've also always had multiple streams of income. So kind of like a point to what you said earlier, it ended up being a situation where like the things that we're doing now that are taking more precedence, they were always on our to-do list. Our to-do list is the same. It's just the prioritizing and the order is different. The order has changed. And I think that's what is the biggest thing for us. Like, I'm launching my podcast. I'm starting my podcast this weekend. I was already building out a course on creating community. And now it's just like, people need this more than ever. Now everything is digitized. So literally it just switched up the order of the things that we already had on the to-do list.
Girl, it's so funny you mentioned that, because even I was just applauding our cohort 2 yesterday, because literally last week it was just like shit hit the fan. It was low energy. Like, people were like, what are we gonna do? And the things that they pumped out this week have been like, and we had this discussion where we're like, it's kind of a YOLO moment where I think the exciting thing, and in times like these, the best shit comes out, the best innovation, the best art, the best everything, because it pushes people up to the wall. And I think the things that maybe you hesitated on but were passionate about doing, you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
like,
why have to do it now?
Why not? Like, even this, like, I wanted to do like online, like more open it up to more people before, and I was like, oh, like we have to focus on this thing, but I was like, fuck it, we turn this around in 48 hours. It's like, well, let's just do it, because this is what's needed right now.
Yeah. And even with me, it was like, I saw what you were doing and I was like, I have something that falls right into this that may help. So
I was just like, this is actually one of the days.
Right. So it worked out.
I love it. Well,
I see Cassandra. Hello, my love.
Yes,
there's a couple names that seem familiar to me. Jody, your name looks familiar to me and I can't remember how. Nicole, I know you, darling. Who else is in here? I'm trying to think of like names.
Scott just popped up. Hi, Scott. We have our cohort queens from cohort 2, Liz and Kathleen.
Rhonda's in here. I know Rhonda. I believe I know Cherie.
Lydia as well. Yes, look at these amazing faces. Well, not faces. At some point, I want you to turn on your face so we can see you. I don't care if it's 10 a.m. and you're in pajamas. When we open up for Q&A, actually, I would love real quick if you guys could put on your, just because we're in a place right now where it's kind of shitty, it's nice to see other humans and have that contact. We'll definitely, when we have Q&A, we'll definitely open it up and, you can chat with each other. But I would love to see your faces right now and you guys just wave at each other before we get started. It's kind of nice when you're in the same, you're all over the States. You're in the same place. Michelle said I went to bed at 4 a.m. Girl, nobody cares.
Taking a picture for my own. Don't worry, I'm not going to put you on the internet without your permission. Don't worry.
I love this. All these beautiful faces. I see. It's so funny because everyone's adjusting. Like they turn on their camera and they're doing all that. This makes me so happy.
Meanwhile, it's like to hell with all of it.
Yeah, who cares? Like, honestly, there's days where I'm like, the only reason I dress up, I did the same thing in college where it's just like, you know what? Let me feel the way I want to feel. But then there's days where I'm like, fucking, I don't feel like what's right now. So totally Awesome. Well, I want to be mindful of Evita.
I allowed Red Runway to do a drop off yesterday.
Oh yeah?
I'm not going anywhere.
Going anywhere, facts. That was me last Friday. But yeah, let's get started. We'll have people that trickle in as we are doing this. But I'm going to do a brief intro of Miss Evita and also some reminders, and then she can intro herself and we'll get started with the conversation. But as a reminder, Female Founders Support Week is for female founders who obviously need support during this time in times of uncertainty. Something we remind the Get Shit Done queens in our community is that this is the time for you to shine. It feels uncertain, it feels tough, but this is your YOLO moment. All the things that you've been wanting to do them. The support you need. This is a great time for the collective to come together. That's why I'm super excited about this topic. Because Evita is a rock star community builder. If you're not familiar with her tribe, it's called NOMADNESS. They have like over 20,000 people in their community. And what I like about her community, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, there are so many communities, groups out there. I know we're all a part of. So if you're like, I'm a part of so many different Facebook groups, Slack groups, everything groups, where I got to mute some of them. Because at some point I noticed that there's so much quantity, but not necessarily quality. And what I mean quality is that it's not their intention that's not good. It's what they're offering and the value they're delivering. And I think that can be measured by this, especially by the engagement in your community. So what Evita does so well is if you are in NOMADNESS, like I got in that group, in Facebook group, she added me before I was going to my trip, on my trip to Brazil, and their travel community. She'll go more into that. But I went in there and I'm just like, they post something, it's like thousands of like hundreds of comments. And I'm like, there's plenty of groups where I've seen the numbers she has, and you get 1 or 2 likes. You get, if any, comments. And that's not to say people aren't engaging. Maybe there might be people who are more voyeurs, but if you have that many people in your group, you should have more interaction. So that's why I thought there's no one better than her to have this discussion today. Now more than ever is so important. I like the idea. One of our other experts, Kara Cronin from Shine, we're going to send out her replay that we did in her expert session in the accelerator, and the recap this evening. She talked about community as the new moat. So if you understand startups very well, moat is the thing that keeps your company safe from competition. It's the thing that differentiates you, the thing that can't really be replicated. No one could take your community from you. That is definitely a moat. And in times like this, when you have a community like that, you're not out there trying to go and acquire customers. Like, it's already there. So I'm excited for this discussion today.
Yeah.
She is one of the top people to do it. So let's kick it off. But Evita, before I jump into these questions and this discussion with you, I'd love you to introduce yourself. And what NOMADNESS is.
Yeah. So I'm Evita Turquoise Robinson, affectionately known as EV to the tribe. And I am the CEO and founder of NOMADNESS Travel Tribe and also Audacity Fest, which is the first festival in the country that has ever been targeted for us, by us, for Black and Brown millennial travelers and our allies. And so if anybody showed up in here, hope it might have just been you, but if anybody showed up in here earlier and kind of heard Alex and I chatting, we were talking about Audacity Fest specifically, but my community is approaching 25,000 members around the world, primarily Black and Brown travelers, and really started as a way to break the stereotype that people of color don't travel and that we go to the same places that everybody else goes and has the same level and diversity of an interest as everybody else. And the community started with 100 people in 2011. And so we're approaching 9 years old, and we do everything from international trips. I actually just, by the skin of our teeth, got a group of 45 people both in and out of India this past week, unscathed. And we do international trips, but we also have, like I said, the likes of major events, our annual barbecue, which is like our tribe family reunion that we do annually, and now Audacity Fest, which is our biggest activation of the year. I have approaching 40 regional ambassadors, Those are the people that are ambassadors of our brand, that are our local and regional representation. And they're also the liaison between myself. I have a very lean team. There's about 6 of us that are location independent that help me run the overarching company and community that is Audacity Fest. And then we have these regional ambassadors that kind of come into play. And they do their own meetup. So I think one of the cool things about NOMADNESS too is that we're kind of like this balance, right? We're this balance of, yes, we started and the guts of our communication and interactivity is online, but we balance that out with offline experiences, right? And making sure that people are seeing one another face to face and engaging, and providing resources. I think people say sometimes there's 2 compliments that have been really legit as far as NOMADNESS. One is a lot of people saying that it's the new age green book. For those of you who don't know, the Negro Motorist Green Book was like the way that Black travelers during Jim Crow felt safe. They knew where to go. It was a resource. They knew sundown towns they couldn't go to after dark. And we are really like a safe space for our demographic in the international and digital travel community. The other thing is we're kind of like a Black business incubator, underneath it. So many people have just observed or been members of NOMADNESS over an extended period of time and been like, you know what? You guys have inspired me to put my 2 weeks notice in and start my business that I've been dreaming about. Or you guys have inspired me to pack up me and my family and go live location independent, or to move abroad as a full-time expat. People make these most dramatic and, to the general public, these dramatic life changes and transformations, being inspired, but also knowing that they have a community that is a resource that's not going to let them just fall flat on their face. We have shown up for our membership as a leader. I'm the face of my brand. I'm not a leader that plays the background. I think people need to understand what type of leader they want to be. I'm very forefront. I am a member of NOMADNESS as much as I am the leader of it. And I think that that's very, very important, and allows me to trust decisions that I make intuitively, because I can also rely on the fact that, okay, this is something that I also need in this moment. Therefore, it's something that may resonate with the community as well. So yeah, just very well noted. I'm like your diversity and inclusion go-to girl when it comes to the travel industry. So yeah, that's kind of like me in a nutshell.
And community in general.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
You and Tiffany Aliche are like gold.
That's my girl.
If you don't know Tiffany Aliche, she's the budgetnista.
The budgetnista.
Lord have mercy. She also is killer at this. Who I also met through Evita. So the number one thing I like to start with, it's similar to if you were on day one, we start with your North Star always. When it comes to your business. Why do you get up? Why do you do what you do? So on that same vein, for you, Evita, why did you start NOMADNESS? Because I think there's so many people that hear community, it becomes this tactic. It's kind of like authenticity. People think of it as a strategy now. Yeah. It's like, the strategy is authenticity. I'm like, that should just be a thing. But now that's people are like, it's not how it works. So now you have all these companies rolling out communities because everybody else is doing it. And you see that it falls flat, because my opinion is that they have not gotten clear on why do you do what you do. So I would love to hear from you. Why did you start NOMADNESS?
Right. So I started NOMADNESS because I was a 3-time expat and backpacker. I was just like, I'm all about like the pretty but gritty when it comes to the travel industry. That's how I started. And so for me, I have lived in Paris, France. I've lived in Chiang, Thailand, and I've lived in Niigata, Japan. All this was happening before I started NOMADNESS. I started this when I was 27. And for me, it was about literally traveling. And at that time, we're talking like before Instagram started. Like NOMADNESS has been around longer than Instagram. A lot of these communities that have been like offshoots of NOMADNESS and kind of like developed their own stylistic, they weren't available. And there wasn't a community specifically for my age demographic. So we serve everybody, but really our sweet spot in our actual demographic that we go for are millennial travelers of color. Like that's it in a nutshell. And we're like 78% female. It's like almost all women. So with that being said, we know very specifically who our demographic is. And it's me, really. Like I represent our demographic if you needed an actual example. And so for me, it was about traveling, living abroad, not seeing, especially in Asia, not seeing many people that look like me, but also understanding that there had to be a community of people that put travel at the forefront, who wanted to make this a part of their life in an extended way, and who also wanted community, and trying to break these stereotypes. At that point in time, it was that, like, Black people traveled to, like, Freaknik, the Caribbean, Vegas, like that's kind of what was being shown. And we knew that we were so much more multifaceted than that, but mainstream media, as well as the internet, they did not represent our complexity and our individuality in that way. And so for me, I wanted to create a community about that. So yeah, that's really why I started, is because I wanted to find more people. I needed community. They always say, an entrepreneur, you have to identify the problem. What problem are you going to solve? I was living out my problem in real time. And that's what, led me to create community. In Japan specifically, I was in very deep isolation for a year. And it just it drove me crazy, to the point where I was like, I need a community. Michelle's comment has me dying. Sorry, I saw that coming up. Clearly, Michelle was at Freaknik.
Clearly. I love that. So the thing that a couple things stuck out to me is, first, you solving something for yourself in that time. And that goes into, what do you get focused on? Because even before I decided to start the Get Shit Done community, it was really like, well, what is this? Because there's so many, like for you, there's so many travel groups, there's so many female entrepreneur groups. And I'm like, well, why am I not getting what I need as a female entrepreneur from those groups? And I'm like, what is the thing I need? What is the thing that no one's really talking about? I'm like, traction. I was like, unapologetically, we're traction focused. We are for women who want to scale, have a potential of scaling $1 million and up companies who want to do that. Because there's a difference. I think when we put everybody in a group, female entrepreneurs is broad, travelers is broad. You can't serve everybody because that's such a broad demographic. So I guess for you, how did you decide? Because we've had this conversation before. You're like, we're not for the first time travel. You need to have one passport stamp. How did you get to that point to focus on? Because I think that is such an important thing. This is the same thing with business plans. When I have founders that come to me like, oh my God, our business is for everybody. You're like, yeah, you mentioned, you're like, yeah, we're here for everybody, but our sweet spot is this. How did you decide here is who we will focus on and who we best serve? Because I think that's what's missed often.
This is going to sound probably a bit savage, but I wasn't setting up community to babysit people.
Come on, queen.
And I didn't want to babysit people, and I didn't want to take on the role of having to coerce you into taking your first trip. I didn't want to be the person who had to try to explain all the reasons why it's life-changing, this, that, and the other. I was like, nah, I'm a little bit too far in my life journey for that conversation. And to have that conversation repeatedly, this ain't the spot for you. And I knew, as an avid traveler at that point in time, that it only takes one trip. It literally only takes one trip outside of the country for you to look around and say, holy shit, this is what the world is. It becomes transformative. My first trip changed my life, and my trajectory of everything. And so for me, it became a situation of being honest about what I did and did not want to do, about being honest about how accessible and in what ways I wanted to be accessible to this community. It was about being honest about what I needed, because the other thing too is, as founders, we get lost. There are so many times where I get lost in NOMADNESS, you know what I'm saying? And you have to always kind of come back to you at some point too. So it's like, okay, what role can I play indefinitely and infinitely in this company for however long I want, that still allows me to retain self, right? That still makes me feel good about going into the community and engaging with these people every day. And babysitting was not on that list. Trying to coerce people to take that first trip was just not on that list. And so in the early years, I used to actually catch heat for this shit, because people used to be like, oh, it's an elitist group, this, that, and the other. And I was like, that's not where this comes from. That's not where the intention was bred. It has nothing to do with eliteness. It has to come with, we are a place where when you enter the digital walls of NOMADNESS, you understand that you are amongst peers and people who have done this already at least once. So we can now get over the intro and jump into the content. You know what I'm saying? Let's get directly into the programming. And that was very important for me. And I've always been unapologetic with it. And yes, to this day, the main requirement is you have to definitely have at least one passport stamp to be a part of the community. But it's just to show that you took that personal initiative. Because the other thing too, right? Like, I'm in travel, but you can look at this from a scope of different industries. What is that thing that you already want your consumer or your community member to have done on their own to show you that this is actually the place for them? You know, because I think a lot of people, they'll populate communities and it's like a digital ghost town. I've got like, you know, asked for entry into groups that I'm thinking, oh, it's about to be popping. I get in there like branded groups and I'm like, ain't nobody in here. Like, hello. Like,
big
you know,
names, like big name
and
brand.
I think for me, big names, I was like, this is wild. So for me, it's like, what is a barrier of entry that you kind of want your members to have already taken on their own to prove to you that this will be valuable to them? And for me, it was the fact that they had already left the country at least once. It's like, all right, if you've done that, then everything else that you experience within the walls of this group will be of benefit to you. Because if you haven't, you're going to go into tribe, you're going to feel lost. You're probably going to feel inadequate if you've never done this before, because you're not going to know what the fuck anybody's talking about. To me, that's a disservice to you. It's a waste of your time. And I don't want any community member to feel like it's a waste of their time. So I would challenge every founder to be like, okay, what is a barrier of entry? Something like, you know, proof of concept, whatever, that your members, a step that they have already taken of their own accord that proves to you that they're ready for the community that you built. I think that's important.
I love that. Because it kind of goes, it's the same thing when you try to stand for everything, you stand for nothing. And I think it's the same thing of who you serve. If you try to serve everybody, you serve no one.
No one.
And be unapologetic about it. Like, there are plenty of founders that are like, hey, you know, I'm building this type of company and it might be, I want to be more lifestyle, smaller. Not saying that there aren't lifestyle businesses that scale, but if it's like, I don't want to get to a point of scale, I'm like, we are not the place for you, but here are some like great places for you to go. So I definitely I agree with Jody in terms of that's not elitist at all. I think it's just saying, you know, this is not, I'm doing a disservice to you in making this for all. So now we can get into the nitty gritty of, you know, what are the logistics, the functions of it. So now that you've figured out who, like what your purpose is here, who you're serving, how did you go about finding them? Like, how did you decide, like, where are these people?
Right. So part of this is strategy, part of this is serendipitous, and part of this is I'm just fucking crazy and I try shit. Like, part of this is like, I'm an Aries and this is just kind of how we do, right? So I did not go into starting NOMADNESS knowing I was starting a business. I didn't. All I knew was that I was starting community. And I think a lot of people approach it differently, right? It's like, I have the business, so I want to start the community. NOMADNESS is very organic. Like, the first 100 people, it was just, we snowballed through word of mouth because we found an entry point and a demographic that nobody was paying attention to, including the industry. They could have stayed at 100 people and I would have been none the wiser. Okay, cool. We pop it in here with 100 people. But what I realized very swiftly was that they were fiending and like seething at the mouth for this type of community and people that look like them and traveled like them, because even their families, like, if I could tell you how many times I have gotten messages from people who were like, I mean, on a high level, NOMADNESS has saved my life. Like, literally, you have saved my life. I have family that does not understand my need for travel and what I get for it and how it's developed me as a person. Your community has literally saved my life. All the way to, like I said, the people just quitting their jobs and things of that nature. And so you realize with messages like that, the service and the depth of what you're creating. Because I think at times I don't let it fully sink in because it's intimidating. You can scare the shit out of yourself when you got something big on your hands. I'm just like, okay, let's just keep working. Don't think about it too much. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, you know, people come to me, how does it feel? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I gotta go. Like, you know, and I allow myself like designated moments to sit with it. And it is very powerful and I'm very grateful. But for me, it was about, just bringing community together, and then the business developed from it. Now, as far as where to put them and how to find them, in a way, I found them, but in another way, they really found me because of how starved the industry was. And I know I am very grateful for that, because I know that that's not everybody's story, and it's difficult now. But 10 years ago, there was still a lot of open ends in which people were searching for something that they were missing, and there weren't a whole bunch of iterations of the same thing. And I just happened to have serendipitous timing with when I just like up and launched it. Because I didn't really have a plan. Real talk, I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I just knew I needed community, and I needed to create it because I hadn't seen it yet. That was literally it at first. I think also there's a quote that I heard that I took on, and I definitely say it, where if the internet was the geographic location, Facebook would be the capital, right? And that's just facts. With where people are in the internet, it is like the capital city of where everybody is if the world was completely on the internet. And so for me, it only made sense. And I'm like, I don't know how old everybody is a cohort, but like I signed up for Facebook when you had to have a college account. I'm like the same age as Mark Zuckerberg. Like there's been iterations of Facebook that I think so many people don't even realize over time. And I remember when you had to have it was only for college students, and then we like trickled off and went to MySpace for a little bit. The artists and creators were able to kind of come back. And then you come back, and I was like, damn, like people's bosses, like family members and stuff are on Facebook, and you saw how they opened up and they changed, and groups became a thing. And they're actually doing a really big marketing push right now for groups, because they know that groups are like the bread and butter to keeping people on their platform. And so at that time, it was about something free, because I was broke. I was on unemployment when I started NOMADNESS. I was broke. I needed something that had no overhead. I needed a group of people, something that could be built out in community. And to me, it made sense to do it on Facebook. And again, this is before Instagram and all these other things were even around. And so for me, I started where all my people were. I started with my people. The first 100 people I put into that group directly myself, because they were folks that I had met traveling or knew and had relationships with that had at least one passport stamp. And I started with them, and it grew from there. And when you answer the call authentically and to people, they will promote for you. People don't know this. With all of our growth, with me being in the New York Times, Entrepreneur magazine, National Geographic, 21 most visionary travelers through history, I have never had a PR person. NOMADNESS has never paid a dime to PR. That is in lieu of the word of mouth. Our word of mouth is priceless. And let me tell you something. If you can get Black women to vouch for you, you're good.
Amen.
Black women, like
Amen.
When it comes to trends, and people need to really pay attention to this shit. Like when it comes to trends, when it comes to style, when it comes to everything, TV, entertainment, when you get the group collective of Black women to be like, nah, I fucks with this, you're good. And so to this day, there may be projects where we'll get some like PR push, and I mean, we market, but I'm talking about like public relations, people who like really actively are putting themselves out there and trying to get in press. We are constantly impressed, and we've never paid a dime for it ever. And that is the power of word of mouth and creating something that really aids people's lives and represents and shows up for them.
I love that. And Liz, I definitely see your question. And for any of you that have questions that pop up during the discussion, feel free to put, and you don't want to forget it, feel free to put in the chat, and then we'll circle back to it as well. I love that, Evita, especially in terms of getting very clear on this is what we stand for. And I like the biggest thing when people are deciding where their community should live is what do your people want? What is important to them? Is it more exclusivity? Because I know Slack for certain groups works like really well. I know my network says like that's something we decided at Get You Done that we would do Mighty Networks for more curated. Let's keep it, and we're doing a migration now, keep it less noisy. But it just depends on what your function is. So I like that you called that out. It's like, what do my people care about?
And where are they?
And
And
where
where
are-
are they? Because the biggest thing is like, you don't want to have to go through all these like transferring iterations. Follow me over here, especially now. Because I think back then, because there were less choices, we were able to actually zone in on people's attention a little bit more. But since then, it's like there's so many things and so many places where people can come in. It's like now you're fighting for people's attention way more than I was 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So I think that needs to be something that is said as well. Where are they already? How can you integrate yourself and meet your community where they are, instead of always trying to pull them away, because everybody's trying to pull them away. And excuse my cat, one of them's like trying to infiltrate. You may hear them in the background.
That's all good. So you got them on this platform now. You decided Facebook groups. Now you have this awesome community of over 20,000, highly engaged. It sounds like Jody is in here. She's a part of your group. When I say engagement, y'all, I mean like for real engagement. Like every single post has lots of, it's not even just about the likes, it's about the interaction, the people interacting with each other. Like I hit her up. I was like, I'm going to Brazil for New Year myself. Like, what are some suggestions you have? She was like, oh, go post in Tribe. And I literally had so many like comments and, suggestions. So I would love for you to, because this is something I think all of us have seen, is that you have these communities and it's a ghost town. What's the point of even like creating the space and you don't know what to do with it? So from an engagement perspective, what have you found to be best practices to get, outside of the authenticity piece of it? Because obviously that's the biggest thing, create something people care about, be authentic. But what have you seen as you've built this community over the years have been the best practices for keeping them engaged through this process and bringing more people in?
Right. A couple things, right? One of them is, I think you need to get out the way. One of the books that really guided me into this journey and even creating NOMADNESS is Seth Godin's book, Tribes. That was recommended to me by somebody who I had told I had an idea of creating a community with. And she was like, you're literally who he's talking about in this book. And so I recommend it as a resource. It's really simple. It's a short book. Seth Godin's books are like to the point, but engaging. Tribes by Seth Godin is something that anybody who's looking at building a community, it's like my Bible. And I think one of the things that definitely was talked about in that book is the idea of getting the conversation away from being top down and getting into having a strategy to create the conversation to be linear. If you are always creating the conversation from the top, you are not in a community, you're in a dictatorship. So it's like, get out of the way. Check your ego to allow yourself to get out of the way. You got a real community when the engagement is not top to bottom, but it's linear and there are conversations happening all the time that you are literally not a part of. They don't need you. The more that your community doesn't need you, the more you have an actual autonomous community. I think one of the things that we do well too, even though sometimes they drive me fucking crazy, but I love them, is we allow our members to be human, right? So we allow them to argue. We allow them to debate. We allow them to put their point of views out there in the world. Really, one of the things people get I do not like super curated shit, me personally, right? So my company is going to have some like rough edges to it. My community is going to have some rough edges to it, because guess what? That's real life. And I'm not about the hyper curated, everything's perfect, everybody's going to play nice. Like, nah, guess what? Today, I don't like what you said. So now I'm going to say something respectfully, but we allow people to disagree. We allow people to be themselves and to retain that human nature in the group that allows folks to talk about everything. We're also very loose. Like, it's a travel community, and the conversations need to be travel based, but that we're very loose with that, because travel really to us means, okay, what's going on in the world? So news in another country qualifies as this. So we're having these worldly engaging conversations about something that's going on in a Brazil, in an Italy. I mean, obviously now everything's inundated with coronavirus, but because our members live all around the world, we're getting firsthand account information that the average person does not have access to. And this is when we become a resource. And that's the other thing I would say. become a resource for these people. I think people do not come back into your community if there's no reason to. We have hundreds of country documents that are self-populated. It's almost like an in-house Wikipedia, where if you're going somewhere like Brazil, I told you, put the post in the tribe. And also there are country docs. If you do a search and go into the files, you will see pages and pages and pages of group populated crowdsourced information over years of actual hand-to-hand. Like, you can't find that shit in a guidebook you walk into Barnes and Noble and buy. That's the resource. That's what makes people come by, because there's information that is in tribe that is free to them that they will not get somewhere else, on top of being able to talk to people in real time to add to their the resource, to the information that they need. And I think that's key. You got to give them a reason to come back. I think you also need to give people something to do. And this is what I mean by the ambassadorships, right? We have, in conjunction to the main group, we have regional groups that are broken off, and those are run by our ambassadors in that region. They set up their own events. They are promoters of our major events like Audacity Fest and the Tribe Barbecue. They pull their community in order to see what their needs, what their interests are, how much they feel comfortable paying for an event, all types of things, to get a feel of not just the bigger group, region. And that's what's it going. Every region knows that they have a bigger web and a bigger entity, but we're also giving them enough autonomy and respect, frankly, to know that your needs in Tribe New Jersey is different from the needs of Tribe Houston or Tribe Tokyo or Tribe London. You guys are a part of a bigger family, but we understand that there's an individuality to your region, and we want to be cognizant of that. I think listening to people, I use NOMADNESS as a case study, but as a focus group. If I don't know the answer, or my team is battling between like, damn, should we do this? Should we do that? I have no problem whatsoever going in Tribe and being like, ayo, what do you guys think about XYZ, and throwing a poll up. The way that we pick where we set up our international trips for the tribe is twofold. We spy on them because they don't realize people talk in patterns, and they don't realize that there's patterns that we pick up just by observing the group and not getting involved. That there's places like Cartagena was popping for a while. We're like, all right, we need to look at Cartagena. Thailand was popping for a while. We're like, all right, we need to look at Thailand. We allow the community to guide us in what we offer them. And they see in turn that we're actually listening to them, right? And providing a service and something that they want. With that being said, use them, poll them, listen to them. So when all this coronavirus shit, I'm gonna tell y'all how we handled the coronavirus rollout. Because obviously we're in the travel sphere, so this shit like affects us directly. And like I said, I had 45 people I had to get home. Last week, we got our 45 people back from India into the United States, no glitches in the matrix. Purposely, we did not send out an email last week, purposely. Every company on the face of the planet was sending out shit that has, I'm like, I've never seen a single person with your company. Why are you sending me, and this is just me, right? As Evita, right? Everybody's sending out, this is what we're doing for COVID-19, this. And I was just like, we need to give these people a break. They're not going to hear from us for a week. It also gives us a week to get over jet lag and to get our shit together to figure out what we're going to do. Let's take a beat here, right? I said, and also the first time that they hear from us is not going to be us talking at them about what we're doing. Everybody's talking at them. I have not seen one company take a step back and ask them what they need during this time. Not one. We waited a week before we sent out a newsletter. And in that newsletter, the literal subject line of our newsletter says, what does support look like for you right now? That's what it said. Because nobody's asking them. Everybody's telling them what they're doing and proving their case. And I get it. Nobody's asking them. And in that email, in that newsletter that went out on Saturday, it went out this past Saturday, we had a poll. It's a 5-question poll that we asked them. And we said, what is most important to you right now? We gave them 5 options. And one was travel conversations. Another one was community connectedness. Another one was coronavirus information. Another one was business opportunities. And the other one was levity. Talk to me about anything else besides travel. The two biggest ones that we got answers for was people right now, they want community connectedness and they want to talk about anything else except for what's going on in the world. They want a break. They didn't want to talk about travel. They didn't want to. And I was like, I don't blame you because ain't nobody fucking going nowhere. Like, so it's like, I get it. And you have to like take a step back and realize that you are dealing with humans at the end of the day. You're dealing with people who are being financially hit. Their business are being a hit. They tired of their kids cooped up in the house all day right now. Like, you are dealing with humans. And so you've got to stop assuming that you know what is best for them and what you want. You've got to understand that you need to ask them and take a step back and humble yourself and let them tell you and guide you what they want. Another thing that we asked in our poll was, how do you want to receive this information? Podcast, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, private webinars like this, and they gave us information. Another question was, if there's something that you really want to talk about that isn't one of the 5 things that we listed, what are some other subject matters that you want to speak about? And we literally have been able to build out weeks to months worth of our content calendar and what we're rolling out from listening to our community and giving them the control. You are not in control. You think you're in control, but you serve people. And I think some leaders forget that, right? And so all of those things are just a number of examples of how I lead, how my team leads, and also how we approach community. And that keeps our engagement going because they know that we're truly here for them. I love these people, you know, I do. And I just think that that comes across.
Ooh, I hope that was literally a university diploma on community in one. I hope y'all wrote notes. And it also reminded me of, I think you and I have talked about this, or I mentioned it, the art of gathering.
Yes, Priya. Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading that right now. And what I love about it is and this is what I see so much in communities, is that any type of gathering, whether it's a community online, if it's a wedding, people are so focused on templatizing what they already see instead of saying, well, what do we stand for? So then you get people who are robots of everything else that already exists. And I remember I've had to do this in a couple of communities where I had to call it out. I'm just like, there's some bullshit happening in here. And you as leadership didn't say anything because you wanted to keep it PC. I'm like, that's not community to me. Community is like family. I'm gonna call it the bullshit with my family. I'm gonna hold you accountable. Yeah. Otherwise, if we want to ring around the rosy and hold hands, that's not for me. And it kind of goes back to what you said about, I had to create a community that was what I needed during that moment. So it reminded me when you talked about that, the art of gathering by Priya. The really interesting thing here is that you created something so authentic, something so engaged, something that is so needed and valuable to people. When was the moment you decided, because you're like, I never intended for this to be a business, but it became a business.
I'm like an accidental entrepreneur.
Accidental, and she has multiple things. So what were the steps you took to monetize the community and the offerings you had? Because sometimes people feel icky about that, but it's like, no, you're delivering value. So what were the steps you took to do that?
So I felt icky as fuck. I'm a creative, right? Like, I learned this business stuff on the fly. I did not go to business school. I went to a liberal arts school for mass communications, TV production, and minored in fine art. Like, I am one of those, like, I've always been opinionated and been able to execute. I'm an executioner. But my natural inclination is arts. And I think that's where my connection to people in a lot of ways actually comes from too. I'm always curious and people fascinate me. Even when they piss me off, they fascinate me. And so I feel like with monetizing, the first thing, because I was not going into it, I was one of those artists that was just like, no, like, I'm doing it altruistically, you know, and that's cool until your ass can't eat. So it's one of those things. And so I'm going to go into how I started it, and then I'm going to go into how I transitioned it, because I transitioned it in 2017 by firing my entire team. And a lot of people don't know this. There's some tribe members that are on here. you guys will notice, if you pay attention, that we do not refer to the team as High Council anymore. There is no High Council as of February 2018. And I'm going to get a little bit into that. So I even create community within my team. Like we had literally nicknames like High Council. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm all about like, even the language, you know what I'm saying, that you use can either like pull into or take away from the idea of community. Like I'm just like a sucker for all that shit. So monetizing in the beginning, we did our first meetup 3 weeks into NOMADNESS starting. There was maybe a couple hundred people in the group, and we did it at Horace Cafe in Alphabet City in Manhattan, and had over 40 strangers who had never met each other show up. And I remember at one point sitting down, like looking with one of my best friends at the time and seeing these people come together because we just threw this call out. We had started with membership cards. I may have one in front of me. So this is the old school membership card. Like I have membership card tiers. Like trust me, I be on this community shit. So like we have different tiered cards. Here's a red card, here's a black card, and I'll get into those if you guys are interested in what they mean. And they're all newly designed. Like we don't even use these ones anymore. But I'm all about creating community and making people feel like a part of something. So at the very first meetup, 40 something people who did not know me, did not know each other showed up, and they were greeted with our white membership card. All this was a status symbol to show you that you can keep something in your wallet that shows that you're a part of a bigger community. And so what started to happen is people would take pictures with their membership cards and be like, yeah, it's stunting in the group. Like, I bet y'all don't have one of these. You haven't come out to a NOMADNESS meetup. Then we started to introduce the black card, which is you have to go on one of our official trips. And if you go on an international official trip with NOMADNESS, you get a black card. So now people are starting like, yeah, you got your white cards, you a general member, but you haven't gone out and like done anything, like you haven't gone on one of the trips. And then the red card, I used to, it was like an urban myth. Technically, the background of the red card is you had to do some crazy shit on a trip in order to get a red card. So for example, the only trips that got red cards were running with the bulls in Pamplona. There are people that survived an earthquake that we were in Tokyo during one of our trips. People would literally seek to find out what on the trip that they could do to get a red card, because like the ultimate status symbol was to be able to post in the tribe and floss all 3 cards. There are creative ways, guys, ladies, because I think it's like all women in here. There are creative ways to have fun with your community and innovate and even create tiers within the overall community. That's engagement. To have people be like, yo, and I'm trying to buy into your trip because I want a black card, and I'm trying to do some reckless shit because I want a red card to be able to floss. These are the innovative ways that you can create even community within the community. And that all breeds to engagement because you're giving people something to do. You're giving them something to do. The trips are something to do. The meetups are something to do. The events are something to do. Being an ambassador is something to do, and it gives them responsibility, which makes them your voice. They are your amplifiers. And so for monetizing it, the trips came first, right? And again, I was in this with an artistic backpackers mentality. So our first trips were like $500. It was so fucking unsustainable. It was like unbelievable. I literally don't know how I'm sitting here right now. But it was like that for years because my mission and thought process going into creating NOMADNESS was, okay, I'm a backpacker. I want to create an opportunity where the self-made millionaire in tribe can be on the same trip as the new college graduate who has nothing, because under no other circumstances would they ever travel together. Their travel styles and budget is completely different, but we had created such a dope vibe within tribe that it didn't matter. And we don't dictate who makes it on the trips. You buy in, you get in. Like, we have no control over it. So the trips were one way of monetizing it. We do the first trip to Bocas del Toro, Panama. Jesus, the shit. It's like history in the making. It was funny, but like, we didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I wasn't even gonna go. And people were like, you have to go. This is your thing. I was just like, they're like, it's a travel group. We have to travel. And I was like, I don't even know if I like y'all. Like, I was used to traveling by myself. I was like, I don't even know if I fuck with y'all, to be completely honest with you. And now I got to be in a resort with y'all trying to like navigate something. I'm not sure this is what I want to do, but I said yes. And there's power in saying yes. to your community, because you never know where yes is going to lead you, right? Even if yes, and you realize it's an immediate no, okay, cool. You tried it out. It's fine. I approach everything as a project. It's a project. See if it is. Stop putting so much damn pressure on yourself. Just try it out and see if it works. And if it works, do it again. And if it doesn't, don't do it again. It's fine. Trial and error, right? So from the trips, people wanted t-shirts. That led to our merchandise line for NOMADNESSmerch.com. And the merch has even developed over years. Merch was like a lifeline for me because our damn trips were so cheap in the day. And so merch became like, different series. Like we had this thing called the Ego series, where our #1 selling t-shirt said, I have more passport stamps than you. And it said like NOMADNESS Ego series under it. Another one that was big a seller for us was PSA knows my body better than you do, right? Just these smart ass, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's me, this is my brain, just these smart ass sayings that pop up in my head because I knew that they would stand out and they would garner attention. Like so many people would like come in the group and be like, yo, I was rocking my TSA shirt and somebody from TSA stopped me, started laughing hysterically and was like, where the hell did you get their shirt? For me, it's always like, I want people to be curious. My goal is not necessarily all the time to be selling. I hate selling NOMADNESS. I hate it. I hate selling NOMADNESS. I let other people sell it for me. I love talking about NOMADNESS, but I hate selling it because I don't like being sold shit blatantly. Like I tune out because I already know what's happening. Let me explain to you what I do and share what I do. And then if it fits you, come join us. That's kind of like that's how I work personally. I hate being sold shit. So with that being said, the merchandise line have developed. Now, one of the things that are an iteration of our merchandise line is funny because I'm looking over here because all the merchandise is like sitting in front of me. Again, regions, right? Us having the regional things. Now, all of a sudden, we have regional type shirts that speak to a certain region. So we have like Philly, it's like cheesesteaks, the Liberty Bell, things like that. And it's just like a list. I'm going to pull one of these shirts out so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But it's a simple idea that we came up with that we were able to reiterate for different regions. And when people are repping where they're from, especially as travelers, they love that type of stuff. And this is the type of stuff that sells and it is simple to iterate and simple to make. So I'm going to show you an example because again, this is another way of keeping people engaged and getting them to buy stuff. So this was for Richmond, right? So Arthur Ashe, Jackson Ward, Belle Isle, Cap City, Maggie Walker, RIC, which is the airport, and then Richmond Tribe. So people are able to now buy shirts that rep what part of tribe and what region of tribe they're in. Again, adding another tier where one, they want to buy your shit, so you're making money off of it. And two, they want to project and rep that they are both a part of something that is bigger than them, but also repping for where they're from. We have that for New York, for LA, for Oakland. We have it for the DMV. We have it for like all over the place. And so that is just like another iteration of monetizing merchandise. I'm a big merchandise head. On top of that, what else? Offshoot, but I created a lipstick line, Compass by Evita. And for me, that was about taking something that I love personally. All of the lipsticks are named after different places around the world. And there's a percentage of the proceeds of every lipstick that is sold goes back to a nonprofit of that is stationed in that place. So like, actually, I'm wearing one right now. This red is Aleppo. And anybody who buys Aleppo, it goes towards the white hats. If you've ever seen the documentary on Netflix that are helping with all the stuff that's going on in Aleppo and in Syria, right? Taking ways to still breed in like the travel, but then like also monetize it in various ways, right? The other thing was events, both online and in person. Audacity Fest, tickets to the barbecue, our annual anniversary party that we had every year. Events also became a way to make money, and that opened us up once the industry started to really pay attention to us and realize that our demographic was not going anywhere. Now we're talking about sponsorship and advertising acquisition, things of that nature. Being able, once you can bring physical people into one place at one time, that's when you start garnering the attention of brands. We've worked with the likes of, Airbnb, various transportation companies. We have worked with a number of boards of tourism, local companies. There's so many different outlets. But when you start getting into the event space, that shit is real. Like, that's when you start getting the $10,000 plus cut checks, because they're just like, we want a table or a booth at your event, and we need to be around your people. I think for me also, and I know Cassandra's on here. Cassandra, this is something that I think you and I probably spoke about a little bit too, is when you're dealing with, everybody's on this like D&I shit, right? Everybody realized after we went through a Black president that it was just like, oh my God, like the world is actually more diverse than we thought, like this bullshit. So if you are a minority owned company, or you have a community that is built that hits and checks the mark off of different diversity and inclusion initiative, a brand, like, now's the time. We have been people finally waking up. D&I wasn't even a job title. Like, it wasn't even at so many of these companies, even just like 3 years ago. It wasn't. But they saw the trend in what was happening in business, and they realized that they needed somebody that was dedicated to help push this forward. And so for us in the travel sphere, I'm like, let me inch right into your marketing and D&I person, get me in contact with them, because we have the event that y'all can put your money towards and allocate that budget to. So when you start bringing the people, both in person and digitally, that's when you can start, putting your decks together and things of that way and acquiring that. But I get money from speaking engagements. I'm a keynote speaker for a lot of conferences, a lot of rooms that I make uncomfortable because I'm real about it. And, even like our web series, with Issa Rae, the 2 seasons that we put up, and we're going to be relaunching that too. Like the 2 seasons we put up, there was advertising revenue with that. So I'm just all about multiple ways of having income under the same umbrella. And I think that's really the key to why, even though my industry is imploding right now from the top to the bottom, I think NOMADNESS is going to be okay. And I give that gratitude over to the community, but also the hustler artist mentality of, okay, we're not just going to like make money on trips. I'm gonna get your money on trips. I'm gonna get it on merchandise. I'm gonna get it on events. I'm also gonna start making my own money as being an expert in this field. I have a course that I'm pulling out. That's when the creative really starts to have a leg up over the people who are very like corporate and like single-minded. And I think that's where we are right now.
Ooh, girl, better work. But I do want to open it up for questions, because I'm sure a lot of you have questions. And the way that I would love for you to do this is, we're not going to moderate it. I want you to step forward and ask your question. So I'm going to start with Liz. You had a question earlier, and then Danielle. And then after they ask their questions, feel free to just hop on in. But let's start with Liz, and then we'll go to Danielle. And then you guys can just jump on in and ask Evita your question. Thanks, Evita.
No problem.
Evita, thank you so much. This has been amazing, and your passion is awesome.
Thank you.
So inspired. I want to go back to the barrier to entry to getting engaged community. That so resonates with me, because I think that you are expecting people to show up, but you haven't actually given them that this is what we're expecting of you kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how do you have some best practices or questions that you can ask yourself or ask them to say, okay, you check all these boxes?
Right.
How to identify what the barrier to entry is, one, and then how to understand if your community member meets that criteria.
Are you comfortable opening up to me a little bit about what your business or idea is? And I know we're in a public forum, because it will help me shape it a little bit better.
Yeah, of course. So we have a social enterprise called Project Space, and let's see if I can get my vision of my top of my OKR, Alex. We are on the mission to bring 1 million members into a sense of connection and belonging by 2022. And so, it's a community-driven business. We sell products, Unity bracelets, Be the Change bracelets, and then we also put on events, which started as in-person dinner parties. So the monetization and community around that was so engaged. But I've since moved from where our original community was. And so also scaling in-person events is kind of a conundrum to me. And I just want to do a side note. Kathleen and I were talking. I'm having a realization that a lot of the people that participate in buying our products in our events are single ladies. But that's not necessarily something that people want to raise their hand and be all the single ladies,
That's a
and
big
so how to
demographic
position,
for us too.
how to position things that might, I mean, it's not like a target audience type realization.
Right. I think really ask yourself, and I offer this over to everybody, right? Ask yourself who your ideal community member is, right? What is there? And I think people need to look at like temperament. When we talk about demographics, people go into like age, income brackets, and all of that stuff is great. However, what is the personality and the temperament of the type of person that you want in the group? And I think when you identify the personality, the temperament, how they deal with change, how they deal with people in community, that is a good indicator of the behavior that's attached to that personality type. That can be the entry to your barrier. Like for me, I didn't want to babysit. So I was just like, I don't want somebody in here who's asking a whole bunch of novice questions about travel. I want people who have done this before where we can get right into the nitty gritty. Therefore, for me, that equated to, okay, one passport stamp, right? So I would say, what is the personality and the behavioral type of person that you want in your community? And then what is like the action item that they must have before you get in here that could be associated to that? Use it as a funnel, because like I said, we pay attention to demographics a lot, but when you deal with community, you have got to pay attention to personality. Oh my God. Because whether you go into it thinking about personality or not, you're dealing with people, which means you're dealing with people shit. And that means that you're dealing with personalities. And something I say I have a knack, and it's something I've learned, is you'll learn from dealing with community. You can have the same exact situation happen to two different people. One person reacts all the way over here. One person reacts all the way over here. And then what the sweet spot of what you want as a leader is to have a way to talk to both ends of the spectrum, to kind of be able to just bring both of them back to the middle again. And there's certain temperaments that you can do that with, and there's certain temperaments that you can't. So what is like a behavioral indicator in their real life that is reflective of the type of personality that you want in your group community? That I think is like the key to the funnel.
I think I've got it. Thank you so much.
Good.
That was so helpful. I mean, I have to ask them first.
Ask them.
And not assume that I've got it, but I think I got it.
Exactly. Don't be scared to ask. Don't.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Danielle?
Jumping in. Hi, Evita. Thank you so much for that. I've read so much about you and your company, actually, and it's like really magical to hear it from you.
Thank you.
And one thing that I actually am always fascinated by is localized communities. So you mentioned, obviously, you have them all over the world, and it's so powerful, and also at the same time, in my opinion, takes a little bit of control, but also like relinquishing the control, right? So I'm super curious about how you maintain the quality of the communities and the brand. And then secondly, how you approach the idea of ambassadors, right? Like, is it volunteers? Is it, I mean, clearly your community is super motivated by the mission, but do you pay them? Like, what's that compensation, or like the equivalent of compensation look like?
Right. So it's funny because I was against regional groups at first.
Yeah, makes sense.
It actually took Tiffany Budgetnista to be like, yo, this is how they can work to your benefit, especially if you start doing localized events, because you can get data assets on these localized communities and then pitch that to a region, say like Toyota, but Toyota's market is they're looking for a market in DC. Now I can go to the DC group, pull those data assets or pull them and get the information I need, and now be able to create a localized deck to make sure that we don't lose out on that like localized DC money from Toyota. That's kind of like the benefit of having the overall group and then also the regional group. Believe it or not, some of the regional groups actually talk more than the big group too. And they also know each other's needs better than we do in the big group. So I think that there's a tighter knit community for the regions that we have in those as well. So as far as I'll start with the ambassadors. My overarching answer to your question is team. It really, really is team. And if you don't have the right team, get the right team. And as much as it sucks and as hard as it is, fire the people that are on the team that are not effective. Because I think we know intuitively, especially as women, who is effective and who isn't. And sometimes we get the emotions and all that other shit involved And it's like, you know, like it took me way longer than it should have for me to let go of my entire team years ago and to start fresh and rebrand everything. Everything got rebranded. The price of our trips went up, but all of our content and everything boosted up in those 2 years. So it was like, I needed to do this a long time ago. Ambassadors. These are people who want more to do. They didn't ask to get paid. They were like, I want more responsibility. You'd be surprised how people step up to the plate when you actually delegate responsibility to them. Also, it's just the truth of the matter. I can't be everywhere. My team can't be everywhere, digitally and in person. So you need the help. You really do. Like, you need the help. And so why not give that help over to people who really, really, really are about it, that are advocates of your company. So because we have so many ambassadors, there's no way in hell I can pay them. No way. I pay my team, but there's no way in hell I can pay ambassadors. So some of the things, and it took a while, like we looked at, okay, what could we offer them? Because we're asking them to engage in this group. We are asking them to create events. What I told them is, we can't pay you, but if you can find a way to monetize your events, you can keep that profit. Also, so many NOMADNESS members are either budding or legit entrepreneurs, creatives, whatever. They are allowed to promote to that regional group in a way that we do not allow for the general public. If you try to promote, even if it's a GoFundMe, it gets shut down in NOMADNESS. Because that's another thing that turns digital groups into ghost towns. It becomes an ad. It's just ads, and nobody's like, I ain't got time for this shit. So we delete a lot of that stuff. But if you are an ambassador, you're given permissions and access to the community in a different way that nobody else has, in which you can make money. You just can't make money from us directly. We can't pay you. We give, I'm gonna show you guys something else that I do, and I'm gonna give you another research. I'm in my home office, so I have like all this stuff just like staring at me. So the ambassadors get a welcome package, right? Mailed to them. This is one of our branded boxes. And they get, what was in there? Like a NOMADNESS luggage tag, a NOMADNESS ambassador shirt that they can wear and be identified as an ambassador if they want. There's like a welcome note that comes from me in it. And I get, by the way, as a resource, I get these done by my cousin Denijah, who's actually based in Atlanta. She does amazing graphics, especially for small businesses. She's insane. And her Instagram is Paper Candy Designs by D. Let me see if I can put this in here while I'm talking to you guys. Chat. I'm going to put this in here. This goes to everyone. Paper Candy Designs by D. She's amazing, and you can tell her that I sent you guys. But she creates boxes, and she's big on creating experiences for brands, particularly through mailing, which I think is also going to pump up right now, given the climate of everything that's going on. So they are given a branded box with all these free goodies and something that just shows them, that says thank you for their time and their effort. We have meetings that are done once every 2 months. They have their own private group where they can come to us. Like I said, when we were trying to figure out if we're going to postpone or go digital with Audacity Fest, we polled the ambassadors group. So they're also brought into the loop of making real business decisions, real decisions on behalf of the greater group, which lets them feel more engaged and a part of the actual process, which that's what they want. People want to help. They want to be heard, even more though than I think they want to be paid, you know? And so I think tapping into that, but we also look at during our interview process, because we do interview them, during our interview process, we also ask them, like, how could NOMADNESS be a benefit to you? And there we can have a one-on-one conversation on ways that they feel like they're getting the most out of being a part of our community as well. So you don't have to pay them, but I think giving them the funnel to make money within your community is a way to do it. I also give out perks. So like, for instance, masterclass.com, I will give out my sign-in after I buy it for a year so that they can like brush up on anything that they want. You know, Tiffany Budgetnista's Live Richer Academy. I've bought her Live Richer Academy and given out my sign-in to these people as well, so that I'm also investing in their education and their well-being, so that they know if I can't cut them a check, I'm still feeding them in some way and showing that they're appreciated, really.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so, sorry, one more minute. Do you maintain the quality then by the interview, or do you have like packets that are localized, or like some sort of like ambassador to do during onboarding? Like, how does it remain high quality across the world?
I have a team member that is dedicated specifically. She's our community liaison. Community engagement liaison, and she's the one that runs the ambassador program in addition to me. I'm actually very involved with our ambassador program because I realize how important they are.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, this is Hope. This is great. I have a couple questions that are related to what you just mentioned, and then I have a question about that newsletter you sent out. As far as the ambassadors go, I think it's fantastic. Do you have any legal paperwork that you have them sign that they're freelancers or don't have right to minimum wage, or there's so many rules now with minimum wage, and they might come back and then claim some sort of ownership because they've been helping you so much. I'm wondering what you have in place in that respect.
I have legal paperwork that my actual team who works for me as contractors sign off on. As far as ambassadors, we have a joint agreement that they sign off on.
Okay. Is that something you would mind sharing?
I would have to dig it up because we revamped this thing over a year ago. So I'll talk to Alex and see, let me go through it. I don't want to say yes right now, because if there is legal work, maybe I can like extract some stuff from it and then see if it's something that I can provide.
Okay, good. I just think that's important that's a really huge important thing for people to have in place.
Absolutely.
So, and then for the newsletter, I love the questions you asked. You mentioned 3 of them. Were there any more questions that you had people ask when you sent out the survey?
Okay, so we gave them 5 topics and asked them to vote on which one was most important. We asked them what platform they most wanted to get this information from. We asked them if there was anything that we missed. Let me see if I can actually pull this up real quick while I'm on here with you guys. Can tell you in 2 seconds. It's loading right now because there was 2 other questions. Would you be interested in a digital study hall, kind of like what we're doing right now, but a Zoom room? And the last question was just, outside of content and galvanizing our experts in the greater NOMADNESS community, how else can we help you? So kind of just, again, feeding into their questions and giving them a platform to be able to express their needs to us at this time. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
No problem.
Sandra, you had a question, and then Arshaya.
Hi, Evita.
Hey.
As always, it's a pleasure to be in your magic. And this just gave me a reminder to reach out to Evita. I had a question. I just see so many parallels between your kind of where I'm at. We started the Cosmos in 2018 till now. Like, I'm realizing that our community has like kind of with us, and they're like not the same as where they were in 2018. And like, we recently launched a product that I think like didn't fully flop, but didn't land as well as some of our other things. And it got me thinking and realizing that it's probably because that product wasn't positioned or marketed or presented in a way that kind of honored the fact that they have evolved with us. Like, they're not where they once were. So
I saw your back end on that, by the way, because I get your newsletters. I saw the drop, and I also saw the message that you guys sent out afterwards, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so you know about this. So I was just curious, how has your community evolved with you, and like how did you also ensure that your products, your messaging, the way that you connected them evolved to continually meet are in the journey?
Right. So, I mean, one of the more like very literal ways is they've literally grown up. Like, we've grown up, they've grown up, they've had children. So one of the things that's an initiative that we're actually giving to our ambassadors, and somebody on my team is working on with them, is our whole like Tribe Junior campaign. Understanding the fact that as the community gets older, they're having babies. So now it's like we feature their kids sometimes on our social media feed, which again, makes sure that they bring the engagement in. People will post about their kids. We'll be like, okay, this is like a Tribe baby, Tribe Junior. They're like, we need to come out with merchandise for the babies. So just understanding again that you're dealing with humans. So what's like human shit? What are things in the last 9 years I've evolved? Like, I want to become a mother. So what does that look like in regards to our community and our offerings, right? Maybe there's a trip that's surrounded around motherhood. you know, where we can do workshops and things of that nature. Something that somebody else brought up earlier about single mothers being a big part of their demographic. What we did last year is now our trips are themed. When I fired everybody and rebranded, now our trips have themes to them. In last year, February, over Valentine's Day, because we know we have so many single women, we opened up a trip in Turks and Caicos that was called Love in Turks and Caicos. We tapped in and got an expert from NOMADNESS, who is a relationship coach, Alex Merritt, she goes by the Love Engineer, to come in. And there were daily workshops in our villa about different types of relationships and healing, so that these women didn't have to be alone on Valentine's Day. So it's about like at the life process too, know the age demographic that you're servicing. If you have a younger scale demographic, college students, right? What is the college experience? What can you provide for them in the way of content and service that would speak directly to what they're going through right now? Coronavirus hit. Every college student got like abruptly evacuated from all of their college dorms. Is there a way to not capitalize, but to empathize with that situation and provide a service to this person? So I'm always like, okay, what's a way to look at situations that people are going through in general, but also in the scope of our demographic? And is there something that we can do to help? Is there a conversation to be had? You know, what does that actually look like? And I think that's how you grow with people. You grow with them through your business, but also through their life phases. And that's why I know that as these people get older, like there will be a Nomad Junior, because they want their kids now to be a part of like a younger version of what they're a part of as an adult.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Awesome. And I think, Arshaya, did she answer that question for you? And then once we confirm that, we'll take one more question. Go for it.
Hi. Yeah, I was just wondering how your subgroups communicate with one another. You said that like there's platforms for them. Like sometimes your regional groups have more conversations even than your larger groups do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just like what's the platform of communication for small groups and large groups alike, I guess?
Facebook groups and WhatsApp, actually, they have taken it upon themselves to create extremely active. I'm not a part of them because I'm like, I don't know what the hell. I don't want to be privy to any shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? But WhatsApp groups actually, and that was of their accord. That was not anything that we put out there. They just started creating regional WhatsApp groups, and that has really worked for them in regards to it. We've also been recently approached by members, actually ambassadors of regional groups, who have asked about like them having their own like regional Instagram or regional Twitter to also represent on our social media channels. Because right now, all of our social media forward facing to the general public is still congregated at NOMADNESS Tribe on all channels, but it's everybody kind of together, right? But they've recently asked about that. And that's something that we have to think about with our team, you know, sit back and kind of consider the pros and cons and see what we're going to do. But they've been really taking to Facebook and WhatsApp, actually.
Love that. And we'll take one more question, and then we'll, Evita will tell us what the best way to connect with her is. Who would like the last question? What's on your mind? Anybody?
I love your wall of women. So funny. I'm
Girl,
like looking at
right? You can't say Madam CJ Walker. She's my main queen now.
Hi, Evita. This is Lola Deshion-Bola. We spoke some time ago. Alex did an intro, and so it's good to. This has been incredibly informative.
Oh, hey, girl.
Hey, girl. I'm the founder of NORFest, Traveling Film Festival, curating the finest aspirational films. Yeah, so we're clearly pivoting and thinking about, you know, non-events, and everything that you're saying is where I'm at. I'm about to order a copy of Tribes, because that's exactly, you know, exactly the kind of audience that I need right now. But, you know, we're kind of, you know, in this middle space of trying to transition our immediate community into our platform community. I think I mentioned to you that we're starting a podcast. I think that for me is the most organic way to find our people, and especially in terms of philosophy. So, you know, there's like 30 of my closest friends that I pulled into a WhatsApp group and sort of used as a space to kind of like update them, because we weren't in a space yet to be sending out like, you know, monthly emails or weekly emails or anything like that. But I wanted to be able to get their input on the work that we're doing. So I guess
right.
My question has to do with kind of, one of the things that you said was about giving them something to do. And I guess as we transition to this podcast, I'm trying to think of the most effective ways to keep that immediate community engaged. So a lot of people in that friend group are going to be, right? There's a few of them that I've already interviewed, or we're going to be, we're scheduling interviews. And so I'm trying to figure out like what giving them something to do would be. Like, how do I take them, besides from just saying, here's the first episode, here's the second episode, comment, like, whatever. I'm thinking about whether it's on Instagram, how do we get them talking to each other about the stuff that we are, that we're talking about on the podcast in the most organic way possible?
I think you should also consider bringing them into the brainstorming session, even before you like present the final product. Get them into the brainstorming session. Right now is a very interesting time because one, people have a lot of sympathy to go around because they know that everybody's feeling the hit of what's happening. And it's also allowed people to have a place to experiment also without, like, you can fall on your face right now and nobody's going to judge you because everybody is trying to just figure this shit out. And so I think the experimental phase, the brainstorming phase, asking them what they think about certain stuff, because again, what you don't want to do is keep creating a product and then realizing after you've launched it that it's not actually serving these people and it's not actually what they want or how they want it. So I would take a beat and get them involved in like the brainstorming level of it and have them be a part of the process. So that you're actually really crafting something that want to be a part of, something that they can take pride of if they were a part of the process of building it out.
Absolutely. I feel like we're doing that in a very ad hoc way, but as you were talking, I feel like just individual, catching up with people on an individual basis and getting their direct input.
Yeah. And do you guys have a newsletter list? Like, do you have a newsletter backing where you're sending out communications to like the greater community or people that you hope to become consumers?
We're planning to launch that very soon.
Okay. I think that the answer, then I would like hold on to this answer because you may just be slightly premature. And I only say that because you gotta like have a little bit of a backing of people, not backing financially, but like you've got to have a pot of people that you can kind of tap into. No matter how small the pot is, it's fine. But start with that pot of people that represent the consumer that you're trying to build out, that you want to really replicate and have as a part of it. And then those are your go-tos for a part of this stuff. Start polling them, start just like talking to them directly, make them feel engaged with the actual process, because those are going to be your free mouthpieces also. Like word of mouth is literally priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing all of that. That's really helpful.
Awesome. Evita, as always, magical AF. What is the best way for these ladies to connect with you?
Right. So if you want to follow and connect with Tribe, it's at NOMADNESS Tribe across all social media. Our website is nomadnesstv.com, but you can also link to our email and stuff like that from social. So at NOMADNESS Tribe. And if you want me, it's at Evie Robbie, EVIE ROBBIE. And my website is just my name, evitaturquoise.com. Email there, I get that communication as well. So yeah, if you want me directly.
And we'll send that out because every day after we do sessions, we send out a recap for the day. But thank you so much for your time, Evita. As always, you drop all the gems on community.
No problem.
There are some awesome communities in this group. Cassandra's one of them, the Cosmos, we put it in there. After this is all said and done, we're going to figure out a way, we're going to pull everybody to see how we can connect just the wider community that showed up for this. But for the rest of the week, we have awesome events tomorrow. If you are looking for capital from investors, we have investors themselves that are going to be taking Q&A on how you're going to raise money in this environment. Then we have selling with compassion, how can you hit revenue goals? And then self-care from Nicole Harry, who's on the line right now. So awesome. Thank you all. This is amazing. Evita, appreciate your time. And we will see you guys at our next event and send you out the recap. Hi, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. This was awesome. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
So good.